right now, she's actually worried about all these new smells. So she's very tentative as she's investigating stuff. Look how menacing she looks. See that long tongue flick, Donnie? That means everything's good. Not at all. Oh, she got scared.
Yes.
Yeah. But like I said, she's very tentative. Because I raise my monitors and I socialize my monitors, and I don't feed them live rodents, a lot of times I can have like a monitor cohabitate an area with tortoises, like redfoot tortoises. If you go back to an older video, you'll see actually I hatched a baby redfoot in my monitor enclosure. While the monitors were still in there, there's a baby redfoot tortoise walking around. Indeed, a monitor will also look for the eggs, but they don't have a strong prey drive. So you might notice during the cooler months when we have a lot of our tortoises in the cave, we have monitors in there too, and they're cohabitating, they're moving around. I have caiman come out, or I have redfoots and leopard tortoises, and hermins and marginateds and Greeks and all that, and same thing with my monitors. So indeed the monitor is big enough where it could easily predate the tortoise. Not one time I've ever had any of my monitors ever attack any of my tortoises. I'm gonna pull out, we have a monitor that's so a little T-positive female.
It's Lotus.
Connor's got Lotus?
Mm-hmm.
Lotus, all right. She's all dirty.
Yep.
And G's got, you know what's cool about this? This is the original cow retic female. So this is an animal, 9 years old, and we've pounded her with food as much as possible to try to make her as big as possible for, you know, for breeding and whatever. I mean, I shouldn't say big as possible, but we've definitely fed her a lot. So she's only of this size because we put a huge amount of effort into her, but she does have a lot of dwarf blood in her. And so this is maybe coming up on 15 foot. But she's wonderful. Look at that. But she's wonderful and sweet. And here's one little misnomer. Sometimes people say that cow retics don't lay clutches of eggs. She lays clutches of eggs every year, and as do some of my other cow retics. So it's all nonsense. But it's amazing that people, it's amazing one shred of misinformation can be a lot more powerful than a lot of logic and facts. And I don't know why that is. And so like, in that, remember, take that same logic, one bad reptile owner doing something for the public to see does so much more damage than all of us trying to do good things with our reptiles. So remember, you know, you all have to be responsible, and we're all part of the same community. So this animal right here, anybody who doesn't know anything about snakes, snakes are all spine, so they don't want to fall. So what they do is, like G, they're all wrapped over G to get, she is, to become secure because she doesn't want to fall. If she falls and breaks her back, she's as good as dead. So snakes are very nervous about falling. So if we do things that leave them feeling helpless or insecure of having a good foundation, they'll often cling to whatever. But as the animal is calm and you start managing it with a little bit of, I would say, good handling practices and respect, the animal's very calm. You get long tongue flicks. We could easily take an animal like this and change its disposition just by mishandling it, by being erratic with our movements, not being careful with how much of her body is supported, making her feel like she's gonna fall. That's like really, really stupid. So when you do handle snakes, sometimes I talk about being smooth, and being smooth is not these really super fast movements because there's no need for it. And when you start doing it, you're creating a movement that might scare the animal if the animal's acting nervous. Indeed, reticulated python. And many people that are stuck in the Stone Ages think that reticulated pythons are often aggressive, angry, nasty snakes. And in fact, they are wonderful. They can be ultra tractable, ultimate in intelligence as far as snakes go. So baby fish in here. Nice sweetie. And in the wild, these guys will often use waterways as modes of, basically as alleys of basically their transportation as they go around looking through their range for food and whatnot, but they'll use the waterways. And the skinners know this, and the skinners set up a lot of their traps right along these waterways, and that's where these snakes get caught.
Yes, I love Lotus. I take her out on tours and stuff. She's so good.
Oh, that's cool. You guys think if we live fed Lotus, Lotus would be a different animal?
Very much so.
Yes.
And there's no need to it. That's really just being smart. You don't really need to do any live feeding for her to be ultimate and happy and healthy. And I think it just works that much better. Lotus has ever been outside, like over here.
Over in the pond? I don't think so.
Hi.
Exciting.
What are you doing?
This is Lotus's first time outside?
I think it's her first time in the pond, and so this is great. You literally could take her to a pond. She doesn't try to get away. She's just whatever. She's so into her relationship with people that she doesn't do any of the I want to run away, I'm terrified or anything like that. Right now, she's actually worried about all these new smells, so she's very tentative as she's investigating stuff. Look how menacing she looks. See that long tongue flick, Donny? That means everything's good. Not at all. Oh, she got scared.
Yes.
But like I said, she's very tentative. So she'll sit there. So she's never met this snake. Yeah. So she's not afraid of us. But taking her outside into a different area, and this applies equally when we put these guys in new cages. Monitors, you often move them into another cage, and people are like, put them in a big giant cage. When you put them in big giant cages, they often get really scared and they get really worried, and it basically challenges their comfort levels. So right here, we took them outside, so she's taking it all. She feels comfortable. She's being carried by Connor. She's very comfortable with us and almost gets security from us. Now we put her outside, all sorts of new smells. She's trying to take things in. There's a lot of movement. There's a breeze right now, so the leaves are all moving, and then all of a sudden you get this big animal with eyes. She sat there, looked at the animal, and then she decided that the animal got a little bit too close, and she spooked. So she's not, see like that little flinch? She'll do this little flinch. It's only because she's taking it all in. But I can make her feel better by touching her and being close to her, because it's the things that she doesn't know that's frightening her.
I gotta get you. Yeah.
So when you take your big snakes outside to play, besides some of the obvious things, it's warm outside and you've recently fed like a big python, like Burmese python, big boa, big retic. If you recently fed it, you need to make sure you realize that the animal's still metabolizing its food, so its core body temperature is going to be elevated compared to its room temperature. So if it's digesting its meal, it's naturally going to be 3, 4, 5 degrees warmer than it normally would be. So if I take her outside and expose her to a big heated area, she can heat up where we don't even know it, because we have no real way to appreciate it. She can suddenly get too hot, her core temperature will overheat. It actually can kill them. So you really want to be careful. So you always want to consider when you're taking them out it being too hot. They have no great way to cool down. Right now we're managing her temperature just by taking her and putting her in the water. But easily if I put her out in the grass, in the sun, very quickly you start noticing her temperature, body surface, and everything is going to start rising. She has no great way to cool down, and she'll naturally just get warmer. And if she had food in her, she'd even get warmer even faster. So you always want to be aware of this. It'd be a great way to take an animal you've raised for 12 years, you overheat it, and it will die right in front of you. So this is these big snakes, they're very fragile when it comes to heat like that, and not giving them any way to cool down.
Right.
Well, the retic's not moving, so she's
trying to freak her out myself. Good time.
There you go. Big snake. Help!
She wants to be up high.
Well, she wants to assess everything.
She wants to see. She probably feels vulnerable over there.
That's a rather valuable animal to us, just as far as the breeding project. And I don't even worry about that kind of stuff. No, because they're very, very reliable. She doesn't turn into a mental case, because that's years of raising her, It's one of my third generations. Just wonderful. Once again, this snake's behavior is really good. This is very curious. Hi, sweetie. This is probably pretty exciting to her right now. There's a lot of different smells. She's getting to take a big bath. And G is getting to enjoy the animals that he takes care of outside in a different environment, which is kind of nice.
Because he's tropical.
Jeez. Tropical.
Yeah, you're tropical. Ready? Good idea, Connor.
I will use the cowrie tick as a log.
That would be so great.
Oh, see the head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lower line.
Wrangle that snake.
Man, look at that.
You want a selfie with a dude? Oh yeah.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Jen.
Coming back?
Yeah, she will. She's pretty spooked about Cal over here.
I would be too.
I mean, she's never like really met a big snake, so
There you go, Connor. Tell us about it.
she's got to get used to it. She's scared. I just really want her to swim because you can see she'll tuck her feet back and she'll just use her tail, use her whole body.
Hunting. I'm going to hunt. Kevin, you want to tell me more about the habitat of a monitor?
So both these animals are very reliant in the wild on water and watery areas. So they're going to basically do a lot of their movement in the water. They're going to flee into water. They can get away from predation or being located in water. And they'll also be able to cover very large expanses of territory as they hunt and they find mates and all that. So using these waterways is a great way to kind of avoid people, but still be able to move around your habitat. But both reticulated pythons and water monitors are massively aquatic.
Don't forget to follow us, Nerd Reptiles on Twitter. Follow Evil Morph God on Instagram. Follow Doing a Reptile on Instagram. Doing a Reptile on Facebook. Follow Dumb Donny.
Yeah, definitely follow Connor, because he's the Instagram king.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Draco.exotics.
Ooh, we don't want to help him out anymore, Kevin.